Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. As always, I am Kaylee Batesman, the Content Director at SheCanCode, and today we're discussing how HR tech can be used to promote DE&I within organisations. HR tech is a general term that refers to software and hardware covering a range of HR functions. To give us more insight into this today, I'm joined by Sara Holmberg, Head of HR at Winning Attempt today, to take a look at how HR tech can improve diversity and inclusion and why we should be looking at the Nordics for more inspiration. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming along and agreeing to have a chat with us today. And can we kick off with a little bit of background about yourself, please?
Yes, sure, definitely. My name is Sara Holmberg, and I live and I work in Gothenburg in Sweden. It's on the west coast, for those of you who don't know exactly where Gothenburg, Sweden is. I have quite a broad background from where I started studying law at the university, thinking I'd be working as a business lawyer. But when I graduated back in 2000, I quickly got hooked on the people part of business. So by now I have quite some years of experience from a wide range of industries and sizes, been working as a consultant for many years, both global and local companies. And for the last 8 years, I've been working in tech companies as HR business partner and also head of HR. So currently I'm head of HR at a Swedish SaaS scale-up and HR tech company called Winning Attempt, as you said. And before Winning Attempt, I was head of HR at a company called Fingerprint Cards. It's within biometrics for smartphones, credit cards, computers, and wearables. So in the tech industry for quite some time.
Fantastic. And we always start these podcasts with just wanting to hear how people got into tech and where they came from. Because it's interesting that you originally studied law. I'm assuming, is that something that you saw as a young student and you thought that's for me, and perhaps nobody had pointed out the tech industry to you at that age?
That's an interesting question, because I don't think I was ever thinking that I would be working in tech industry at that point.
That a lot.
Yeah. And I listened into one of your previous podcast episodes where you were talking about just that you can, how you develop throughout the years and take different paths. So learning from past experiences. And I think for me, that is exactly what happened, that I studied law thinking I knew what I wanted. And then I started my first job, got into the area of global mobility. So still working with some parts of the legal aspects of people, but starting with global mobility, also tax issues, employment law and so on. But then gradually moving into more of the HR business partnering and started loving really working with within the field of HR, which is really, really broad. So both like compensation, benefits and so on. So it's been a journey.
Yes, and you finally found yourself in the tech sector, but also you're in quite a niche area as well. And I think a lot of people probably don't quite know what HR tech actually entails. So could we kick off our conversation today with a bit more about what is HR tech? Can you explain it to our listeners?
Yes, I will give it a try. How I see HR tech is the digital tools that we use within businesses to help manage the HR work and our processes, from attracting new candidates to recruitment, to hiring, to performance development, to benefits, how we handle the master data, GDPR, and so on. So all of that is what we would fall under the umbrella of HR tech. And I think what has become really important in this area is to facilitate, to streamline, to automate as much as possible. So reducing admin, allowing for organizations to spend more time on more strategic work instead. And also for HR professionals to be true HR business partners to the leaders of the organization. And perhaps not everyone knows or have heard about Winning Temp and what it is that we do. But we started as a business in Sweden in 2014, where we wanted to change how people succeed together. And looking through our founders, they saw a real problem in companies using annual people surveys, where you ask employees once a year how they are experiencing their work situation, and then you start working with the result of this annual survey. But what can you really get from that? So our founders were looking to see if we could find a way to constantly have the conversation going in the organization through frequently asking questions and picking up signals, taking action. And based on science, that's what we are working on. So we've developed a platform that helps leaders and organizations understand how their people are experiencing their work situation every day, basically.
Oh, amazing. Yes, that makes so much sense, because I think people see that annual survey drop in their inbox, don't they? And they think, was that survey again? And you feel differently throughout the year about your work, and what it might be that you're working on at that moment in time. So you're right, to have that conversation going all year, you would gain such an insight into actually how your employees are feeling, rather than say you sent it at the end of the year and people are feeling a little bit, hopefully not burnt out, but they're feeling a little bit like, I just need to finish the year for Christmas. But they would feel completely different perhaps mid-year. So that absolutely makes sense.
Exactly. And what we encourage our customers, and what we're also doing ourselves, we use the tool and the platform ourselves as well. Of course, we encourage our customers to use 6 questions per week to ask the organization and the people how they're experiencing their work situation. And our product is unique because we don't ask the same questions throughout the organization. So if you and I were working in the same team, you would one week receive completely different questions from the questions that I receive, because we both experience the work situation differently. Yes. So as an example, if I get a question related to how I'm experiencing stress right now, I could possibly today be responding negatively to that question, and then next week I will receive a follow-up question, because the system, the AI, will identify then if there is a trend going here, or if it was just, oh, she was just stressed that one day because it was a rough morning with the kids or whatever. So it's actually asking relevant questions. So it's super.
Oh, I see. Yes. So the feedback from that must be incredibly rich once you put it all together, and see the difference in answers. That sounds great. So many companies, they're thankfully hiring more diverse candidates now. But what is the next step, do you think, to a successful DE&I strategy?
I think you need to link the DEI strategy to your business strategy, really reflecting on who are we really, and who are our customers. So looking at where we are today, reflecting on both our customers and also potential candidates. So before you set the strategy, you need to look yourself in the mirror, I think. And link it, as I said, to the business strategy. I think really important is to now when there is a what you could call it a skills shortage, or that we are not using the full potential of the skills out there. Identify in your strategy what skills do we really need and how do we find them? Can we broaden our view? What are we potentially missing? Are we using the entire talent pool, or can we look somewhere else? What we have done at Winning Temp ourselves is that before we go in and start a new recruitment, we always do what we call a diversity check. And it's not a diversity check only looking at like gender and ethnical background and so on. It's from all perspectives. So really age, gender, education, industry. What are we potentially missing in these teams to really add on? So more of a cultural and diversity add-on to the team that we are missing today. And I think the important thing there is to reflect our customers. That's super important. So knowing why really you have a DEI strategy, what is it that you want to achieve?
Yes, I love the fact that you said link the DE&I strategy to the business strategy, because you're absolutely right. I think more companies are doing that nowadays. But it is slow, but more companies are doing it. But I think years ago when this conversation started, it felt like it was an afterthought, wasn't it? It was kind of an add-on. Oh, we need a diversity strategy. You know, somebody in HR take care of that. You know, it wasn't actually, as you said, built into the whole business strategy and how that relates to your customers and how your employee base needs to reflect your customer base, because that's who they work for, and they're the people that are going to be able to translate what you guys do best to your customer base. And it's something that for a long time I think companies just really didn't think about, did they? But as you said, now a lot more companies are building it into that business strategy.
Yeah. And I think also looking really hard on what does our leadership structure look like today? Is there a fair share of both women and men in the leadership roles? Because I think when we're also recruiting, if you can see someone that you can mirror yourself in, then you know that you can also achieve it. So if we have a more equal base of both women and men in leader positions, then that will in itself also attract a more diverse workforce.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And when you go for the interview as well, whether or not there's somebody there that you think you can relate to, it gives you a real sense of whether or not you just feel you're going to get on with those people day to day as well, and have similar conversations and beliefs and a similar drive for that business.
Linking just staying on this DE&I strategy, if we're linking it also to HR tech, and looking to what can you do of finding out where we are today, in a tool like our tool that we're using ourselves, as well as that we can actually identify how our different age groups are responding to the questions. How are the women, how are the men responding, how are the non-binary, and also asking quite concrete questions regarding how you experience diversity within your own team, within the organization as a whole. So we can really take the temperature on that as well, which I think is really, really important stuff to use for your when you're working on the strategy.
Yes, really useful. So, because I was going to ask, how can HR tech help fix gender equality, help fix the problem within the workplace? But as you said there, you get a real temperature, as you said, of how a workplace is feeling, and where you need to make changes. And you mentioned age, but I suppose that's just one example, isn't it? That also relates to gender inequality as well.
Yeah, definitely. And other things, I think there are so many great HR tech tools out there that would be helpful when working on the gender inequality problem here, because I think starting from job ads, What we have just now started using a tool where we can actually check the job ad for language and tone of voice. Have we written it so that it's coded more masculine or more feminine? Can we make changes to that? So there's just so much there. And also in our recruitment tools, we can eliminate names, gender, take out photos and so on to reduce bias. So I was looking at one example here from my talent acquisition manager, and she showed me an example of a name of a person, or the name was removed, and the person is instead called Dolphin Sky Blue. And this is through Team Taylor, so it's also a bit of humor into it. But it's eliminating the unconscious bias to that, which I think is a great way of actually promoting more diversity in the workplace.
Yes, so you only see them for their skills and what they can offer.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've heard that before about, you know, if somebody sees a CV and it has a name which perhaps they can't pronounce, or, you know, you kind of, people think they have certain things that they think, and they might just disregard a CV, and it could have been a really talented person, and you just think, oh, why do it?
I know, yeah,
you're absolutely right there.
And also adding like HR tech tools, like for personality tests and logic tests, take them early in the recruitment process, because that also eliminates or reduces unconscious bias if you're using the tests early. And there we have a really good collaboration with the Alva Labs, who are super on the personality tests and logical tests.
Yeah. And so it's all of that is before you get into a company. And then once you're in a company, I mean, you've spoken a little bit already today about, you know, surveys and making sure that conversation is going on all year. But do you think it's important that employees have a voice in the workplace, or is it just, you know, you just get in and you do your job and that's it?
No, definitely, and that's it's in our DNA, of course, as our product is about actually listening in. So having the possibility to check in on each other regularly is super important, and that's, I think, how are we supposed to create high-performing teams if we don't know our teams? And I think knowing on all levels, so both allowing for the anonymous answers and comments like you can give in a pulse survey, but also, of course, the one-on-one check-ins and so on that you have. That's super important. So for us as an HR tech company and listening in to our people, that's the entire idea. And expressing your voice, then you feel valued, you have an increased job satisfaction, you feel that you can influence, and you also have better opportunities for development because you have raised your concerns. And doing that through an HR pulse survey like Winning Temp, and you constantly have the information, you have the data, and you can act on it.
You know, it's really interesting there as well that you just mentioned one-to-ones, because I suppose having that mix, that one-to-one where you can speak to your manager regularly, but also having a survey where you can just fill something in and be anonymous, and you know, I wanted to ask you a bit about what can organizations do to create a safe and comfortable workplace, but I suppose actually having that mix of being able to share your voice in different ways, because you might not share certain things in your one-to-one that you would share in an anonymous survey.
Yeah, so true. And of course, in the best of worlds, you would have everything openly, and you would always have full trust between manager and employee, and between employees from different teams and so on. But we, of course, sometimes need to raise things that we perhaps don't feel comfortable of having my name on it, but I still want to raise it. So I think it's super important that we have that alternative. And to create the safety at the workplace, I think the genuinely caring about your people and showing that as in your day-to-day work as a manager, but also showing that you care as an organization. So if you have decided that you will have these pulse surveys, checking in and so on, what do we do with the result? Do we talk about it in our teams? Because otherwise it's like sending in my comments into a big black hole. You have to also work with it. And generally put people first, because I think understanding as an organization that the well-being of our people, if I feel that I'm being listened to, that I feel that I'm involved, I will also perform better. So it will be linked to business performance. So it's business. It's not just being nice to people. It's hard business.
Yes. I love the fact that you said actually making sure that you talk about the results, because surely, you know, some people, they must work at companies and they think, yes, I answer these surveys all the time, but nothing happens. There's no action. So suppose it's just looking for that action that, you know, once you've been there a year and you've taken so many surveys that you can actually see change the next year around. Yeah.
I think HR tech and in this format, the pulse survey is a help for you, but you have to put in some work as well as team members and as leaders to really discuss and talk and work on the actions. But you get really good insights, so you don't have to do all the work yourself. So you get the insights from the product, but you need to take action and make the improvements in your team.
Yes, I suppose it's not just thinking, oh, you know what, we have this great product. We're in HR tech where we can just get people to answer surveys and that's it. We've done our part. We've got some great insight, but we do nothing with it. Do you think there are negative connotations and stereotypes around HR that need to be addressed to allow a more inclusive culture?
I think it's really important that HR is in sync with the business strategy, and also I think clarifying to both employees and leaders what the role of HR is in that organization. Because when you may come from a background where HR has been more of a go-to department or person when you have a problem. But you could also come from a more mature organization where HR is a true business partner and really the right hand of the CEO. So really from HR perspective, clarifying what it is that is our mission and the role in our company. And regarding the diversity and inclusion in this matter, again, I don't think I can stress this too many times. Tell the organization what you're doing and linking it to what it is that you want to achieve as a company. Why is it that we believe in diversity? Why is it that we believe in a more inclusive workplace? And making sure that there's a red thread throughout, not just when you're recruiting, but also during the life cycle of an employment, so that you see that we're actually taking action. One example there, I think, from what we recently did here at Winning Temp, we had a really good all company dialogue. We did it online, but we had different groups around some of the areas that we have identified within our workplace that is super important for us to work with diversity and inclusion. For example, when we work at different offices, we come from different countries, and we speak different languages. How do we make sure that everyone feels included? So involving the organization in that. And there, I think HR can be more clear on what it is that we can contribute with there.
Yes, I love everything you just said there, because I completely agree with that. I think a lot of people, they see HR as you have your first interview with your screening, you get in, and then you might go to them, as you said, if there's a problem or something negative, and then you might have an exit interview if you're lucky, and that's it. I completely agree with that. It's there to have that conversation throughout your whole time, to make sure that HR are working with the business to make sure that you feel included throughout the whole time that you're there at that company, instead of just you only see them when you enter and you leave, and that's it. I completely agree with that, to make that culture feel far more inclusive. We're nearly out of time, and I've got one more question for you. I wanted to know, Nordic countries are leaders in workplace gender equality, and why do you think they've been so successful?
Good question. And I think I can speak from my experiences from Sweden and what I see. And of course, we still have a lot of challenges here as well. But if we look at Sweden alone, we have really generous parental leave practices, and that is, I mean, it's regulated by the government. We have childcare for all, so it's super. I mean, it's subsidized, so it's not depending on your income. So it's available. You know that you will have a place for your child quite nearby to where you live. We also have a high ratio of women workers in Sweden, and have had for a long time. So it's more of standard that both women and men work at an equal ratio. I don't know if that's how you would express it, but I think also, I don't know if you've heard of Pippi Longstocking.
Yes.
And this book written by the Swedish author Astrid Lindgren in the 1940s. I mean, it's about a girl growing up in her own house with her own rules, without parents present, challenging both gender norms, speaking her mind. She's really strong, independent, breaking the rules. And this is what both Swedish girls and boys have grown up with for generations now. And still Pippi is seen as like a role model. I think that has something to do with the culture that we have here, and quite I mean, we have a flat organization structure, I would say, throughout Sweden as a Swedish norm, where we have more of the consensus involving people in decisions, people feeling included. I think that's actually helping out on the gender equality as well, to feel included. We also have that's also regulated by law, that we need to make annual reviews on how our salaries are. When we compare, we have to make sure that there are no discrimination based on gender in the salary structure that we have. And that's we have to do annually, just to make sure that there is no structure indifferences.
Yes, they're all great things that all, you know, obviously work together to make the Nordics a leader in that area. There are so many great things that you mentioned there. One of them was role models, which I think is so important to be able to see. You know, for young girls to be able to see those leaders as to, you know, like you said, who they'd like to be when they're younger, and you know, yourself as a leader in that as well. I'm wondering, you know, if our listeners are thinking, how do I, you know, get into this type of area? You know, how do I work in this type of area? I take it you don't have to be technical to get into it, you know, yourself. You don't have a technical background. That's a misconception, isn't it, that you have to be technically minded to come into these sort of areas in technology. You don't, do you?
No, we definitely have a lot of different roles within our company. So just because you want to work within a tech industry, you don't have to have full tech background, of course. But if you're interested and curious, I think that should lead the way.
Yeah.
And if you have a background within finance, why not try out to work within finance at a tech company for a while? But it's high pace, I would say, for where I'm at. So it's not for everyone, but if you're interested in change and like to be part of building something, then it's super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that is lovely. Lovely advice and a lovely place to leave it, because we are already out of time. It has absolutely flown by. So thank you so much, Sara, for coming in and sharing your insights with us today. It's been really interesting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You. And to everybody listening, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.